attempt to do a video upload while we're streaming because my parents have 55 internet. It's amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It looks like we're live.
Live?
We're live.
Awesome.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah, it's uploading right now. 4%, 5%. This is awesome.
Your picture actually looks better now that you're uploading than it did before.
Cool. I should just like upload a bunch of crap in the background just to make it happy.
Well, let's see here. We've got the Handy Outdoor Nerd in the house. How you doing? We have TK in the house. How you doing? We've got Daniel Norey. Hey, Daniel. Are you still in the U.S. or did you go back home yet?
Sorry, guys. It's been a really busy night. So if I'm a little bit out of it. In short, if you guys didn't read my Twitter, I literally left my parents' house at 3:30 and got back around 8. Ran down to LA with a friend, grabbed dinner, went to a bookstore, got back home, and I am literally like, oh crap, gotta do the stream.
I see Lucky 13's in the house. Thank you for joining. Daniel's back home, about to take the kids to school. Man, well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Somehow, some way, we've got to get over to see Daniel one way or another. Either go over there or meet him in Goshen or something.
Gotta drag him out here for Maker Faire.
I'd love to do that. I'd love to get him to come out.
Oh,
but I got a feeling he's going to be like, nah, you guys aren't worth it.
Oh, you know, he's secretly plotting like some, you know, what was the like Publishers Clearinghouse style event thing where he like rolls on up with like some camera person and he's all like, hi, oh my gosh, it's Daniel Norey, you know.
And I'm sorry if you can hear a printer in the background. I'm trying to get something calibrated right so that I can do a video here. As soon as we finish the stream, I'll start recording. But it's just about done.
Nice. The video is
I got this noisy fan.
So should I show everybody V3 of the Tascam holder?
Yeah, show them.
Okay, so this is probably going to be in Saturday's video. Wednesday's video is just going to be little vlog of me and a friend going down to LA before the show. Nothing fancy, but it's all I could get done. But I was chit-chatting with Jimmy, and I bought myself a Tascam. I can finally record good audio, hopefully. But what I did is I tried printing his original holder here in Tallman Bridge nylon, which if anybody knows nylon, and it's blocking my face, I know. Anybody who knows nylon knows it's good stuff, but the problem is it warps a lot. So this is how it literally came off the print bed when I printed it with this end down. You can just see those edges are just bowed out like crazy. And yes, I could probably heat it up with the heat gun and try and shrink it back in, but it just wasn't worth it. And I was also having an issue with this edge here bowing out. And then I had some issues with top layers sagging a whole lot. It didn't go as good as it could. Now, mind you, printing nylon's a bit of a pain. So I asked Jimmy, hey, would it be possible to print the thing with like braces in there so when it's standing up on end, it's not trying to like splay itself out? So a little bit of back and forth on Twitter later, we came up with this. It's the exact same Tascam holder, except for the fact that we added this guy up here and we added this guy right here. And then also Jimmy got really fancy, and on the edge is a headphone jack. So he made an opening for that. And then also, I don't know if you guys can see it. Sorry if the lighting's not the greatest here at my parents' house. But on the side here is the little hold switch. And right there is a groove where the hold switch goes. It's not perfect, but it works. So that's where this is at now. I've had some problems with my flex plate trying to kill itself. So I'm not really sure if I can do any more nylon printing. And I don't know if this print is even ideal to be done in nylon because of its shrink factor. But I do like the new design of it.
We lost Daniel. Thank you, Daniel, for joining. If you're still in there, I'm not sure he took off because he had to take the kids to school.
Have a good one, dude. Like, blast us on the, you know, car's audio system or whatever you have. Or if he's on his bike, he's just like rolling.
Kids are like, no, daddy, no.
Or if he's riding his bike.
Led Zeppelin, something other than that. Anything other than that. No, Jimmy and Calvin, no. No.
Or if they're riding their bikes to school, he's just like blasting us on his little Bluetooth speaker, and everybody's like, oh, it's those people.
It's those crazy Americans.
Oh, man.
But
But
so
yeah,
is your dad around, or did he already take off?
I think he already took off, so he might pop out later, but we'll see. But we can get started without him on the topic of swap meets, because I've heard all the swap meet stories from him. I can just totally like take his place and play two people.
Well, we can always take our time and start talking about your haircut.
Oh, okay. I quit. Later, guys. Bye.
I still don't think it's short enough, Calvin.
What?
He's gone.
What was that, hater? What was that? What was that? Hater?
I was going to hang up on you.
Hater. FYI, Jimmy's a hater. Couldn't help but do the old walking off the set joint joke.
Yeah, you cut a little bit off. How much did you cut off?
At least.
Yeah, you could have went with that much more.
Hashtag hater.
And ask him for a little bit of straightener. Take one of those paddle things, you know, that you heat up and stretch it all out.
Oh yeah, I had a friend going, oh man, if only I would have known, I would have totally brought my hair straightener over and straightened it just for the heck of it. I'm like, I would have actually let you do that because I was getting it cut. That would have been hilarious.
So did you go to your stylist?
Yes, I went to my, quote, stylist, Jimmy.
Did she say, oh, it's need a little bit over here and a little bit over there? Was it that kind of a thing?
No,
a little more the poofy.
You suck. No. Pretty much what I told her is, you went to cosmetology school. This idiot right here didn't. I trust you know what you're doing. It's just in its current state, it's actually a huge safety hazard for me. Can you make it less of a safety hazard? So that's what I said, and that's what happened.
It's still a fire nest. You could. That's nothing but a tinder bundle right there, just waiting for a spark. All somebody's got to do is wait for the spark and go. Pull Bear Grylls on you.
Next time I'm at welding, I will get my sidekick to film me torch cutting steel to prove to you guys I'm not going to light my hair on fire.
What do you wear? A do-drag or what?
No, I actually have a actual Nomex hood that I'll wear when I'm doing torch cutting or welding, because A, I don't want to get, sparks down my ear canal, and B, it helps hold everything in place regardless.
Curtis says poof, like in poofy poofy.
I think he means poof as anything.
Poof.
I think he means poof in terms of like I put too much hairspray on. Not going to go poof, Curtis. Don't worry.
Okay, so what is this that you want to talk about? Some flea market or whatever it is.
Okay, so the original topic after hair and going down to LA, which I know we're going to talk about in like another 5 minutes because I know Jimmy and he has ADD. No, the original topic was going to be, are swap meets a dying thing? And I'm only saying this as somebody who's gone to lots of model train events over the years, lots of swap meets, things like that. So the real question is, has the internet killed them, or have they just become a victim of their own, almost you could say, success? Kind of like, people found all the good stuff and all the stuff behind is scraps. Nobody wants to buy, so nobody's going to swap meets anymore. If that makes sense.
All the above.
That's what I was thinking. And I don't want to sound, mean when I say this, but the other thing to keep in mind is Usually at most of these swap meets, unless it's somebody who literally does this as a profession, 95% of the time, it's a bunch of old retired people, especially like these electronic swap meets, trying to sell off their stuff. And the reality is, you know, they can't keep doing it indefinitely. Either they're going to run out of stuff or they're just going to run out of the capabilities to go there and do it, you know, which is sad, but it's just the reality of it is this generation, mine especially, has just become like, oh, I can just order it new on Amazon for about as much as I'd spend going to a swap meet, you know. Or another thing to keep in mind is some of these swap meets, like at least the train shows, at least up in the Bay Area, the fairgrounds that you're at usually charges you about $10 a day to get in. Then the event itself charges you about $10 to get in. And I'm saying about because some of them vary. Thankfully, because I'm part of a group, we get in for free, but we're still charged for shipping. But still, the thing is, you're spending, you know, 15 or 20 bucks to get your butt in the door on top of whatever gas money it takes to get to and from there, and you don't find anything that you wanted, you know, you really felt like, gee, I just blew about, we'll just say 20 bucks between gas and, you know, everything else just to find nothing, when you're like, gee, I could use that 20 bucks towards what I really wanted to buy, you know.
So TK's got a point. Everything changed after American Pickers TV show. Now everyone thinks they have rusty gold. That's one of the biggest problems when it comes to both flea markets and when it comes to swap meets, is that everybody thinks what they've got is worth way more than it really is.
Oh, yes. And that's totally true. And it's seriously frustrating because you'll go to these things and there will be people with literal piles of just junk. And you'll be looking at it going, man, you'd be lucky to get, you know, $6 for this scrap value. And they're charging like 20 bucks an item. And you're just like, in what universe is this rusty hunk of junk worth 20 bucks? You know, and like TK just said, stuff is only worth what you're willing to pay for it, which is true. But the problem is, if there's one person in 10,000 that's willing to spend 20 bucks for your hunk of junk, but there's only 500 people to go by your booth, odds of you finding a buyer are nil to none. You know, that's, you know, something to keep in mind. But Mr. Carroll Science made a good point as well. Swap meets have a bad rap for being a mass garage sale for old people who have nothing better to do. That too, which kind of ties into the whole, a lot of the sellers are older people trying to sell off their stuff. You know, it almost just becomes like this revolving door of, I'm going to buy Jim's stuff so then I can sell it at my booth so Bob can buy it so he can sell it at his booth so Jim can buy it again. And it just almost becomes like this circular network, and you're just like, why'd you even do that?
Yeah, and they have a tendency of starting like at sunrise and ending by 10 o'clock in the morning. So most people are already, you know, by the time they get out of bed on a Saturday morning, it's already over.
Exactly. I mean, it's like my dad would go to a good example would be the De Anza College swap meet that I filmed eons ago with my dad when I bought my torch rig and stuff. We had to leave San Francisco at, I think, about 4 in the morning, because I think it started at like 5 or 6. We had to leave about 4. We had to be up by 4 and on the road by about 4:30 or 5, something ridiculous like that, to make it down there in time. But that's a good example. I mean, let's say you have to work late or something Friday night. Do you really want to crawl yourself out of bed a couple hours later? I don't think so.
No, don't even get up that early to go fishing.
Get up that early and go on a stinking road trip. I mean, it's like, there's nothing wrong with swap meets. Don't get me wrong. I've gotten some really good deals. Case in point, the torch rig at the De Anza College swap meet for 15 bucks. Yes, it needed some repairs, but I still came out way ahead price-wise, and everybody at Airgas was just looking at this going, wait, you spent how much for that? What? Like, everybody was seriously at Airgas, including the customers, were just looking at the stuff going, oh. I mean, like, old, solid, like 15-pound a piece brass Victor nozzles and really nice jeweler's torch and everything. And I'm like, you know, or I've just gotten other stuff at swap meets for good deals. But yeah, the thing is, they're just not what they used to be as well. It's really frustrating.
TK says it's like when he Used to hand paint with ceramics on plates. Celtic artwork cost me over 20 pounds a plate to make, but a plate is a plate. You can buy a set for 20. That's how it takes that person who just says, okay, I know exactly what went into this to appreciate it. Otherwise, your normal run of the mill people are like, oh, that's a pretty plate. Oh my God, that's how much?
Yeah, it's totally true. You know, one second, I'm just trying to look up details for a swap meet that I just went to because there's pricing. Okay, so here's another thing to keep in mind. On Saturday, I went to, for those of you who are not familiar with the portion of Southern California that I grew up in, Santa Susana is in between Simi Valley and LA. It's this tiny little area, this tiny little depot that used to be there, used for years. And about 4 times a year, they have a little swap meet. So it turns out when I was going to be in town is when they were going to have a swap meet. Gave me one of the train club members I know messages me and goes, hey, we're having a swap meet. I'm like, sweet. This is a very, very tiny swap meet. But the thing to keep in mind is they charge you $15 a person to have a spot if you're a vendor. So there's another thing to keep in mind is different events. If you're a seller, charge different rates. So this is a very tiny swap meet. They only charge you $2 a head to get in.
Wow.
So you're lucky in that department.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know, say they're charging you $45 plus you got to rent something to get there. You're out easy $100. And you're like, I sold how much? Oh, not worth it. You know, there's that too. You might as well just Craigslist it.
Mr. Carroll Science, I've gotten worse about this since I got a 3D printer. Now I'm always thinking, could I make that? I live in a rural community where everyone thinks that way. That's a good point too.
We're kind of moving back to that whole societal fabric where everybody just, you know, baked their own bread, milked their own cow, and maybe went to the neighbor when they needed an egg, but it's not the whole centralized, go to the supermarket. You know, we're going back to that whole fend for yourself society, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they say the economy is doing a lot better, but I was talking with a friend of mine that has a welding business up in Gilroy. He called me, what was it, yesterday morning, I believe it was? Yeah, I think it was yesterday morning when he called me. And yeah, I mean, he was telling me himself, he's like, the amount of work that's coming in right now is just ridiculous. I mean, I'm not meaning in a good way. He said that he like lately it's just been like building a basket for a forklift for lifting people up, that kind of stuff. Where this guy normally works on like can cookers, can coolers. We're talking in the canning industry, and he said there's nothing now. It's just whatever little welding jobs he can pick up.
Man.
And so with an economy like that, it's hard for people to say, okay, I want to take and spend out this money for that. I really don't need the thing, but you know what? Maybe I can just make it, and you know that I get by with it that way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guess who crawled out from his little cave and came out to say
now how do you want us to refer to you? You want us to refer to you as Mr. Witt, Calvin's dad?
Tommy Cow?
Tommy Cow. Tom's fine.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Jimmy. I hear the subject. Well, at least I heard it was swap meets and whatnot.
Yeah, we were talking about swap meets, and then we're talking. Mr. Carroll Science brought up the point of he's gotten worse about spending out money for different things that way since he got 3D printer, because now he's always thinking, can he make that?
Oh, well, maybe the more important thing is because first of all, anybody who's going to a swap meet is cheap. You're looking for a deal. The second thing is that a lot of times you'll find something that's broken and you think you can fix it. So in his case, if he can make that part, yeah, that is the thing to do. A lot of times I will buy things that are in that shape and that condition just for the purpose of being able to do that.
Well, I mean, case in point, he has a lot of like those heavy duty, like news crew style tripods that probably could be strapped with, run over by a truck and be fine. But the problem was they either did not have a plate on them that was somewhat proprietary, they didn't have a handle on them. So the person was selling them at a steep discount, but because he was able to make his own mounting plate or handle or something, there's a good example of getting something for cheap, because he could, build the parts himself on the cheap and make it work. But at the same time, for most people, they go, cool, can't fabricate that, bye-bye. There's a good example of a swap meet find where something's kind of pigeonholed because it's lacking certain parts, and to buy them new will cost more than, what the whole unit was worth, even if it had the components used. So you kind of got that trickiness in there too.
Yeah, the parts that Calvin's talking about, they were O'Connor tripod heads, and the head alone, not even the legs, but the head of the tripod is about $4,000 when new. And I bought 3 with legs on them that had been through the rigors of ABC News for $90. But like Calvin said, they were missing the plate. For $1 worth of aluminum and a bit of time with aluminum in a vise and a file, I made the plates. So if you're out looking at swap meets, those are the things to be looking for. Sometimes everybody will pass it up. Oh, it's incomplete. But if you've got some of the background to make those things, they're good prices. So,
yeah. Now, in your opinion, when it comes to swap meets, do you see them kind of dying out a little bit, or do they seem like they're still going just as strong as ever?
Yeah, I would tend to say that from the one that I go to probably most predominantly is the TRW swap meet down in Redondo Beach. And it's mainly was a ham radio swap meet, but they started allowing other electronics in. And at this point, I'm going to say that ham radio probably comprises 10 or less % of who are there. But Calvin, how long ago was it we started going there? Like maybe 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago?
Something like that.
And the whole parking lot was just packed. But now you go there and maybe it's 50, 60%.
If that.
So, I mean, the phone has kind of made the computer obsolete. And that's mostly what I was there for, was computer parts. So, but I mean, it's just that whole end of things, the computer side of things, is just so ridiculous. A video card that maybe somebody paid $200 for 3 years ago, and now I'm buying it for $3,
Yeah.
Obsolescence accelerated,
Well, another thing to keep in mind is it's like back, I think it was like 15 plus years ago ish. I remember going to my very first swap meet with him, a different one. And it was interesting because it was like you could pick up like old computer chassis for like $5 and $10 a piece, even back in the day. And you could literally build a computer for under $50, monitor, keyboard, video card, maybe a game or two, and this was back in mid 90s money, but still, I mean, you could build a nice computer based off of, bits and pieces you picked up at the swap meet. But the problem was nowadays, everybody's hoarding their graphics cards for these mining operations and stupid stuff like that. Or, everybody's like, oh, this video card's still worth lots of money. I'll just
wait a minute. We're not over on your channel. You're going to start calling miners stupid and stuff, man. You're going to get me in trouble, man.
All of a sudden, the troll fleet just starts coming in. What'd you say about mining?
I'm all for the Bitcoin.
That's the buzzing sound in the background. Is that your secret Bitcoin mining operation behind the screen, Jimmy?
I wish. Yeah, but I know what you mean. I still think that they have a very good role, but yeah, the popularity has dropped off with the invention of the cell phone and Amazon and eBay and all that. I mean, that's pretty much made it where a lot of times the ones who normally would sell as swap meet feel that they can actually get more money by going to an online way of selling it.
Well, and the other thing is the time invested. I mean, that swap meet that I go to opens up at 7 in the morning. So those people are probably up somewhere around 5:30, having probably loaded a truck the night before. And right. So they've got probably 8 hours invested in the day. And as Calvin said, they get charged for the space. So some of those people probably don't even recoup what the space costs them. And
Right.
You do that enough, and I think it's just like, this is not a money-making proposition. They could probably get a job at McDonald's and make more money for the time that they invested. I think some people are probably out there for the camaraderie, but not everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a good example with the TRW meet of the pricing. If you're a general vendor, it's a 2-space minimum, and 2 spaces will run you $60, which is an average size space. 3 spaces is $120. You want any more, it's an extra $60 per space. And the other thing is there are absolutely no refunds regardless of weather, swap meet cancellation. So you've already invested easily $60 plus, like I said, if you had to rent, say, a small U-Haul van or something, $60 is a lot of money for a non-refundable deposit. Should anything happen, you're out $60, rain or shine, swap meet or not, good luck.
And there's one guy out there, Calvin knows him, Silicon Salvage.
Oh, yeah.
And that guy he has himself and probably at least 3 employees with him. So I can't imagine that those guys are making any less than $15 an hour. So you got $60 an hour there, and they're probably, including the time when they probably had to load it at work and everything. He's probably, in the space he occupies, he's probably $300 to $500 in before he's even made a profit that day. So wow. he's got to really start to move stuff. And so, yeah, I can see why. I mean, it's sad to me because almost every time I go, the numbers are diminishing, and you go, oh, that guy isn't here anymore, and that guy isn't there, So I think when the tech bubble burst, I think there was a surplus of stuff. And so people kind of gathered all that up. But the nice thing about that swap meet is they say, yes, ham radio and electronics, but you'd be surprised what the comprehension of and electronics kind of expands out to. So if there were 3D printers there, well, electrons flow through that. So consequently, it would probably be a very welcome item.
I mean, one time we found somebody trying to sell, I forgot how much it was, a radio controlled, actual jet engine powered airplane there as part of the stuff that they had. I'm just like, that's cool, but how much did he want? Okay, never mind.
Well, it is a radio club, so radio
got a radio signal, it works.
Yeah.
I mean, I got my very first crystal-based radio controlled 4-channel model aircraft controller there for like $5 off a guy at the TRW swap meet. So there are good things to be found, but they're pretty far between. And this thing was like absolutely ancient. So, that doesn't help.
Yeah. Plus you need to get out there as early as you possibly can before everybody else picks up those deals like that.
Oh, gosh.
That's that's one of the nerve-wracking things that I find is that I'll start on one end and I'll get like halfway through. And mind you, when I go to this swap meet, I kind of do what I call the big scan. I try to walk through as fast as I can, looking for something I want. And then I go back a second time slower to say, okay, what did I miss? And then I go through a third time for, that contemplative, well, do I or don't I need this, but I'll see somebody toting something and I'll be like, what? Where? For how much? It's just like,
it's like, how did I miss that?
Well, exactly. Now, there are other times when I've gotten stuff and I've been like, oh, I was glad I was there at the time. But yeah, I mean, I love the concept of it. To me, it's like treasure hunting, and
yeah.
I just enjoy it. More often than not, I come home with something. In fact, I have a dumb phone, I don't have a smartphone. So many a Saturday morning, Calvin has been woken up at probably 7:15 in the morning. Hey, Calvin, look this up for me. What did it cost originally,
Or what's the specs on this video card or this hard drive? Or there's been times where we've been at the show where I'm literally like, he'll be holding on to something. I'll be looking it up on the phone like, yes, or no, it's a piece of crap. Oh, okay, puts it back down. But that is the one nice thing about the advent of having smartphones is you have access to everything. So you can make a very informed decision on the spot, like, yes, this is a great graphics card, or wow, that's not much better than what I've currently got. You know, things like that come in handy, or wow, this person's really not charging that much better than I can buy, you know, majority speaking on eBay or something like that, you know.
Yeah. Mr. Carl Science is asking, do you feel the pressure to buy something to make your time worth it?
You know, it's interesting because I've gone to these swap meets, come home with absolutely nothing. And I know that if my wife had been there, she'd have bought something just because she was there and she went through all the trouble. I have a little bit more restraint. I would say, though, Calvin, wouldn't you think that my buyer's remorse is probably no more than about probably 20%? And it's probably less than that. So most of the time I've been pretty content with the things I buy, but I'm kind of picky, you know, and I'm always, and honestly, a deal to me is probably 10 cents on the dollar to 5 cents on the dollar, you know, at least as a new retail. And the thing to me is, and I was thinking about this just today, nobody has an iPhone 12 yet, right? So what is it, the 10 that's out now?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, whatever the latest iPhone 8, 10, whatever the number is. So today everybody's content with that. Oh, isn't this great? Isn't this wonderful? Well, until the iPhone 12 comes out, and then your older iPhone is kind of like worthless to them. It's in a drawer somewhere. Well, I find that if I just live like, I don't know, 2 to 5 years behind the times, I do it for pennies on the dollar. You know, I just live in a different time zone, you know, far further back on the calendar. And that tends to save me a lot of money. So, I mean, I run Windows 7 computer still, you know, Core 2 Duos. They do the job for me. You know, I don't have to have the latest i7 and, you know,
1080 Ti NVIDIA.
Yeah.
He's wanting to say Calvin.
As I'm using the like ridiculously powerful laptop to live stream. But no, I mean, yeah, that's honestly the reason why I was editing on a non-internet connected Vista computer for so long, is because that's what I had and that's what worked. But you know,
does he have the RGB lights all flickering all over his keyboard?
Yeah. You walk into there and it's like walking into like Linus Tech Tips server. I'm just kidding. It's like walking in there. It's like walking to like Rotwang's, you know, workspace in Metropolis. It's just like, you know, sparks everywhere, and I'll be there in a minute, you know, plugging some ancient card in. Oh, it's great.
You know, the other side of this is, and I hope that Jerry Brown's cronies don't come after me for saying this, but when I go to these swap meets, let's say a part cost or an item cost $100 new 3 years ago. And now I'm buying it, and the guy's got a $10 price tag on it, and I'm trying to get it for $5, and usually we wind up settling somewhere in the middle. So let's say you pay $7 for it. I got that part for less than the guy who bought it for $100 paid on the sales tax on it, and I didn't pay any sales tax on it. So I actually got even a bigger savings than that. Now, I guess, you know, you're in California too, so there is that sales tax thing. And for me, I don't think it works out for more than $21 a year. And so I pay it. I know a lot of people who just avoid that, but I just pay that so I have a clear conscience, because I know I probably got far more value than my $21 that they mathematically say that I owe for not even out of state, but sales tax that didn't get paid. So,
yeah, I hear Newegg they gave up the names of those who bought from out of state, and so now their states are going after the people that are in their state that didn't pay taxes.
No, really?
Yeah, there is a deal that came out about 2 weeks ago about Newegg. So it's like, yee.
Yeah.
Luckily, since we're here in California, we have to pay taxes whenever we do it. But let's say if you're from New York or Pennsylvania or one of those states and you buy from Newegg, they don't collect the taxes.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Everybody wants to buy from the state they don't live in to avoid that.
Yeah, and most companies, as I know on Amazon especially, no matter where I buy it from, I always end up paying sales tax. But just think about it in the last, say, 2 to 3 years, most of the places I've bought from online, almost every one of them has been with sales tax. I can't even think of one where it hasn't been.
Ultimately, from the video that I saw from Jay's 2 cents, obviously he's a tech guy, not a CPA, but what he said made sense, though, is that really, at the end of the day, it either fell on you as the buyer or the company as the seller to charge, to make sure that the sales tax got paid. So the assumption was because Newegg or whatever company you were buying from was not charging you the sales tax, you then were liable come tax time to pay those taxes. So really, they weren't ripping the state off. Ultimately, the liability was falling on the buyer. But obviously, you know, the people buying it were kind of like, ooh, loophole time. So really, when the state was saying, hi, pay me my back taxes, you don't have any case because you never paid them. So the state's actually going after what's rightfully theirs. You know, that's nobody's fault. That's not Newegg's fault. That's your fault for not paying it. Although people were kind of like, ooh, loophole.
But here's the interesting thing about it. Newegg wasn't contacted by the states saying, okay, here is a subpoena. We want all the customer information so that we can go after the customers for sales tax. It was a, hey, you aren't charging sales tax. Either start charging sales tax or give us the names of everybody who's bought from you. And they're like, here's all the names of bought from us.
Well, you know what, though? I would take it like as a swap meet shopper, that party is the seller. And I mean, when you go into a store, you don't offer to pay the sales tax. They were asked on their end to pay it. So I look at it as it's their responsibility. So if somebody sells me something for $10 and I owe $8, what is it, 82.5 cents in sales tax, well, then that should come out of the $10 that I bought the item for. Right. It's their responsibility to collect it, not my responsibility to pay it. I paid the price. So at least I can plead ignorance when I go to a swap meet.
Well, honestly, I don't know how the swap meet is, but I know it sounds, or not, it's, what was it we went to? Sounds like flea market. If you go there more than, I think, 1 or 2 times, I think it's more than once a month or once, whatever the, once a year, whatever the deal is, you have to have what's called a resale license here in the state of California, meaning that you pay taxes on everything that you earn to the tax franchise board. But I'm not sure how that works when it comes to a swap meet.
From what I've read on the Santa Susana website, they actually say that if you're going to do this like more than once, they're not going to check you, not the people organizing the event, but they say it is a good idea just to have a reseller's license, you know, just so that way, if you're doing it a lot, you're not going to potentially run into trouble with the city. It pretty much, it's more of like a goodwill thing just to have that in there. So if you're just, it's kind of like if you're doing a garage sale like once or twice, I don't think the state's going to go hounding you, oh, you owe us taxes. But if you're doing something, you know, like
if you're doing it every weekend,
you're doing it week in and week out, or in this case, they have 4 swap meets a year. If you're doing it, you know, if you're doing it multiple times and you're selling a good quantity of stuff and the state catches on, you might end up in a little bit of trouble. So it's more or less is like a precautionary measure just to have that in there. You know, it's not a bad idea, but that's obviously very much you're liable for your own taxes deal.
And for the guy who has his wife and his 10 children, he's covered for the year because each one of them is running the swap meet on that particular day. So
exactly. Now, one question I got for you. I know you got to do this. So how do you keep your money divided up in 1s and 5s and 10s and so on, so you can walk up and say, all I've got is my $10 bill?
Did Calvin tell you about this?
No, I know how it usually works. I just want to know, how do you divide the money up and know that when you reach in your pocket, you're pulling out the right one?
What I usually do
is, I've got some $10. Oh, wait a minute, that's the 20.
When I go to the swap meet, I load up on 1s and 5s and 10s. And the reason is, and a lot of times what I'll do is I will like I'll ask a guy what he wants for something, and he says, "Oh, like $10, right?" And I go, "Oh, I'll think about it," and I'll walk away, and then maybe I'll loop around, and it's still there. So this time I walk up and I offer him, say, $7, and I have the $7 in my hand. Because yeah, I agree. Like, you're sitting there and you're dickering, over some, some $6 item he wants $6 for, and you're offering him 4, and then you pull out 20 to pay for it. So yeah, I tried to avoid that at all costs. Even though I'm cheap, I don't like to be embarrassed. So
he needs like one of those. He needs like a.
Take it. Go up when they want $10. You take a $5 bill. Make sure you put it in the other pocket, right? And then just walk up there. Oh, I got some.
Well, I was gonna. That was actually going to be in my tips for going to the swamp meet, was to make sure you have lots of small denomination currency. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I buy things that are a quarter, and so I make sure that I have a fair bit of change in my pocket as well. But this is the way it usually works. The night before, I eat cereal for breakfast. I make my cereal up. I have it actually on the table with a plate over it to keep bugs out. I have my clothes all picked out. My money's all there. I usually make a little snack to take with me. The alarm goes off. I get up, I eat, I get in the car, and I drive there. I do the shopping with the small denomination bills. Totage. I usually take a backpack, and within that backpack, I have a voltmeter because I'm buying lots of electronic stuff. So if it's batteries I'm picking up, I can test those. Maybe it's something just at least to check for continuity. I have that. I have a Phillips and a Blade screwdriver, because if I can con the guy into letting me actually take something apart because I want to see what's inside, I have that. And then within the backpack, I have like little tote bags. One time I went with Calvin and we sort of split up, and he probably 5 minutes later, you're texting me, Dad, do you have anything to carry stuff with? So I have those tote bags that all fold up on almost nothing. And so the next thing I know, Calvin's walking around with like 2 tote bags full of electric motors that, I don't know, we paid $1 a piece for them. Just kind of.
I couldn't pass it up. Like a bunch of stepper motors for $1 and literally a bunch of geared motors. I go and ask the guy, expecting him to tell me like $5 a piece. Takes him like, oh, you can just have those for $1 a piece. I'm like, I'll be right back. Goes back to the bin and just like grabs all the geared motors. I'm like, okay, at $1 a piece, I can't even buy them off GearBest or AliExpress or even like the cheapest eBay seller for that much. I'm talking like good quality geared motors. I'm like, yes, at $1 a piece, I could easily just turn around and sell them if I'm just never going to use them. So it was one of those cases of pick it up now because it might come in handy, and if not, you can just either give them away or sell them off,
Yeah, if I can relate, one of my more favorite and amusing stories. Years ago, Calvin bought a horizontal saw from Harbor Freight, and I said to his mom, I said, what did he buy that thing for? It's like, can't he just put it in a vise and a hacksaw and save the money? Then all of a sudden, one day, I had a lot of pieces of metal tubing to cut. I said, well, I'll just use Calvin's saw. Well, about halfway through, I'm thinking, man, if I was doing this in the vise, I'd be awful sore and tired at this point. And I was awful happy that he had bought that saw. And then he moves away and takes his saw with him. So I'm at the swap meet, and this guy had a horizontal saw. Like I said, if it plugs in, it sells there, even though it's a ham radio swap meet. So he had this horizontal saw up in the bed of his truck, and somebody else was looking at it. And I was like, oh, don't ask the price. Don't ask the price. I want to buy that. So somehow the guy drifted off or something. And so I jumped right, because I literally jumped up in the bed of the truck and took a look at it. And I said to the guy, so what do you want for it? And for all the world, I thought he said $50. And so I said, how about 40? And he says, no, 25. Well, when I said 40, he thought I said 30. And I don't know what he said when he said 50. So somehow the price I thought that he wanted for it literally dropped in half in about 3 seconds of verbal transaction there. And at that point, I broke the sound barrier, getting my wallet out of my pocket, and handed him the $25. Immediately took a picture of it and sent it to Calvin, and said, "I got my own saw now."
I got my own saw, sucker.
I was waiting for him to go like all tubal canos. Howdy, folks. Tom here. I just bought myself a well saw for $20 at a swap meet. Let's see if this thing cuts anything. Cuts to a shot of it cutting. Oh, it cuts very good. You know, old American equipment's hard to find these days, but you know, it's well worth $20 to buy it.
I'm just waiting for your dad to smack you in the back of the head.
and then to show my savviness, because the blade did have a couple of teeth chipped out of it and it was a little twisted. I mean, if you had to cut something, it would have worked, but it wasn't ideal. I suggested to Calvin and his sister that a new blade would make a wonderful Father's Day gift. So I wound up getting, you know, like I need a tie. I'd never wear one. So anyway, yeah, so that all worked out. That all worked out good in the end. And
what's the really good brand bandsaw blade?
I just buy
Milwaukee or DeWalt.
I usually buy the Starrett brand variable tooth ones that are a little bit more expensive, but they are seriously. I've cut through like titanium with them, and yes, it will wear them out eventually, but for general cutting, they tend to last a lot longer than these cheapo blades on Amazon, which are nice, but they'll go bad in the heartbeat if you get a bad batch. So I find this
Harbor Freight special.
No, I'll buy like the Harbor Freight ones I won't even touch. These are like okay quality. They're fine if you're cutting like wood or plastic all the time, but if you're starting to cut metals or anything like that, then they get a little bit squirrely. They start to go like, and I'm like, I don't want an angled cut, just especially if when you're trying to cut like a whole bunch of blanks out of one bar and you don't want any waste, and then it's like making angled cuts, and you're like, oh, please no.
I know. That's the saw we've got. That's how that thing is. It always wants to cut at an angle. It's like, no. That's always the Harbor Freight blades I'm using too. Yeah,
look into a good quality one. What I'm probably going to do is just order up a roll of bandsaw blade material, because over at the college we have a bandsaw blade welder, and it's way cheaper just to buy a spool and make your own custom lengths than just buy the pre-mades. I used to take old saw blades over at the trade school that I was at. I'd get permission from the instructor because we were going to throw them out because they had been cut too many times for a vertical bandsaw. They still had enough length that I could cut them down to fit my saw. He goes, yeah, we're just going to throw them out. The blades were still perfectly fine, but people would just keep breaking them from putting too much force on them. So I had like 5 or 6 custom blades that I had made up, and I eventually used those up, but it was nice being able to just weld your own, just because of, from a cost standpoint and an ease standpoint, it made the most sense, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you got your swap meets, but there's the, I guess you call it more like local swap meets, which is the garage sales. You know, I mean, that's hit and miss. We have various terms, like a DOAD, D-O-A-D, is a deal of all deals. And there's what we call drive-bys. Anything that has plaid furniture and amber glass, we don't stop at.
we do the 5 mile an hour special. Slow down. Nope. Peel out.
And baby clothes would also fit that category. So when you get into all the play school colors, that's something to keep the car moving. But we've had a guy just around the corner here who, I don't know where they got these tools from, but they were just, you know, throw in the pile, and then they'd kind of, I don't know, $20 or whatever, and just thousands. I probably got what was new, thousands of dollars worth of tools for like $100. And you just, you make the most out of them. So, and then the other thing is thrift stores. The only problem with thrift stores today is they've gotten savvy. So maybe 10 years ago, thrift stores had no idea. You could get a nice tool in there, and the ladies in the back who price stuff, they might know some Vera Wang shoes, but they don't have any idea what to price the stuff at, and consequently, you could get a good deal on something. But today, if they even have a hint that it's worth some money, they go right on the internet and they look it up. There was one case, though, relatively recently. I have an HP. Hey, we're talking printers here, although we're talking paper printers. But hey, let's stay on topic here, right?
Printer's a printer.
I was in a thrift store one day, and this guy is walking around with a bag full of ink, printer ink. And I kind of glanced over and I go, oh, wow, what printer inks he got there? And I go, oh, wow, those are the inks that my son, that would be the one right next to me, needs. And so I was kind of like, oh, disappointed. Like there was probably 8 or 10 in the box printer ink cartridges for $2. Wow. And anyway, I get done talking to the guy and I walk over and look at one of the shelves and there's another bag with printer ink. So the irony is that the bag that I had most of the numbers that this guy said he was looking for. And the bag that he had most of the numbers that he was looking for. So we both checked out at the same time. We went out in the parking lot and we swapped cartridges. The Calvin came out the loser on that one because all the cartridges that would have worked on his printer, I traded with the other guy. But what here again, and so if you're into, I realize that the channel's about 3D printing and everything, but you have expenses, and if you can find other opportunities or ways of saving money, maximize that. And so in this case, I got, oh my gosh, they were like $30 a cartridge for ink, and I got close to 10. It was like $250, $300 worth of ink that I had. So, and then the other thing too, let me throw this in as long as I'm throwing out tidbits. Sometimes you go to swap meets and you're buying stuff that you don't need right now, but you think ahead. I go to some of the car swap meets that are somewhat local, and one guy kind of stopped me. He goes, I know what you're doing. He says, you're a smart guy. He says, you're buying all those things that cost $8 and $10 and $15 at the store, and you're buying them for next to nothing. I said, yep. Like a transmission pan gasket cost probably $8 in the store. So a guy was selling them for $0.25 a piece. So for $2, I bought 8. So I have a lifetime supply. In fact, I hope I never have to use them all, but I have 8 for, 20% of what it costs to buy one. So I do a lot of that. I purchase stuff. I bought some primer for a car, and you don't think about paint, but for the car, it's not cheap. It's probably $100 for that quart of primer. And so I bought it for I think I paid the guy $10 for it. And then I found when I went to actually use it the other day, other week, that the paint had almost solidified. It was paste-like. So first I put a stick in and I stirred it and it got more like peanut butter. And then I put one of these little veined rotary things in there. After about 10 minutes, I had reconstituted the paint and it worked fine. So, there again, even when I thought I had wasted $10, I hadn't. I was able to save it. So I just throw that out there because it's a lot of ways of saving money. And I would recommend it. Now, the bottom line is not everybody could do that because somebody has to buy it new. Yeah. And so sometimes Calvin's mother will say to me, I can't believe that somebody gave this thing away. You know what? That purse cost $300, and it was popular last year. I bought it for $8.99. But she's almost kind of angry at the person, kind of insulting them. And I tell her, I said, don't do that. If they hadn't have bought it, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to buy it for $8, Be thankful for what you get, but don't insult the person who bought it. Although, yeah, sometimes I am left scratching my head saying, really, you bought this and casted it off so soon? But I guess for some people, money is no object. So
Yeah, that's true.
So Mr. Carroll Science asks, did you ever buy something and get home and realize you already have 5 of them? I already answered it in the chat. I plead the 5th on that one.
I would say that I bought things that I knew I already had 5 of. And the thing is, like, maybe I bought the 5 of those things for, say, $2 a piece. And I only really need 1 at a time. But because somebody else was selling 3 of them for $1, I bought 3 more because that was half of what I paid for them before, and I just couldn't pass up the deal. And I'd say, Calvin, when you say it's fair to say that even though when I bought in plentitude, I wound up using it up pretty much at some point in time.
Either got bent, broken, stolen, lost, or
yeah,
all of the above. Yeah, there's times where he's been to the junkyards and had tools that he bought at a swap meet and accidentally left one behind. Then the next time he's out there, he finds something else. There's certain things that almost you just have to treat as disposable per se. So when you can find them for really cheap, it's like, sure, why not? But yeah, I sometimes am the same way when it comes to stuff. It's like when I was at the little train swap meet on Saturday, I was able to get 2 packs of lots of model train couplers. Person wanted like $5 a pack. I'm like, here's $10 because I knew, one, it was probably more couplers than I'm ever going to use in a long time. But knowing that they go for about $6 a pack for 2 or 4, and I was getting I think like 25 a pack or something like that, I couldn't pass it up at $10. So there's a good example of, yes, I knew I probably wasn't going to use these up anytime soon, but for the price, I couldn't pass them up at $10. I mean, that was like an absolute deal. So there's a good example of, or say I'm at a show and somebody breaks a coupler. Here's a coupler. I break one, throw one on myself. There's that, that whole thing. But yeah, there's lots of times where I bought stuff knowingly just because I needed to have spares or because I knew it was such a good deal I couldn't pass it up.
By the way, I know Mom's not watching because my phone didn't light up when I was talking about her a few minutes ago.
Ouch. Oh, that's just that. Oh, that's wrong right there. He's going to be in the doghouse.
So you don't have to worry about the couch or the bathtub tonight.
She's up in San Francisco right now, so
let's hope she does not find this stream before like Monday. Maybe it properly makes the stream unlisted.
Now, I was trying to see if Curtis was still in here, because at the very top of the chat, he mentioned something. I think he's wanting to know how many 20s it would take to pick up that Nissan or that Datsun.
Oh, the Datsun.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, that thing.
Yeah.
The Datsun.
The hard thing for me is that I just would find it hard to part with. I had a friend, I raced slot cars when I was a teenager, and my friend was one of these, remember the cartoon character Baby Huey? He was just kind of like, oh, this guy was like 21 years old when I was 12, and he would hang around with us kids because he kind of grew up slowly. But he bought that Datsun 510 brand new in 1973. As soon as I think it at the time was a 12-month warranty expired, he just swapped the suspension, everything on the car. So I grew up as a teenager hanging out with that car, and it was so cool, even in its day. 1982, the smog laws changed, and he had to get it smogged yearly, and it wouldn't obviously pass with the modification. So he just parked it in the backyard, sat there for 16 years. One day he calls me up, goes, if you want it, come and get it. So I've had it since 98. So I've had it for like 20 years now. I might have even had it longer than he had. In fact, he did. I think he had it 19 years and I've had it for 20. So yeah, I've had it for a long time. So that's the hard part in me parting with it,
Yeah, I wouldn't part with it.
Yeah, it's not so much the dollar value, it's the historic value. Quite frankly, it rides like a go-kart. It smells of gasoline, and no matter what you do, and it's noisy. It has no heater. But for 6 months, I drove it to work when I was working at night and coming home 11 o'clock at night, no heat in the winter. Oh, it's just unbearable. So it was nice to drive for a while, but nostalgia only lasts so long as your body ages. So yeah, sorry guys, the 510 is not for sale.
Yeah.
When I die, you can talk to Calvin.
Hey, we just heard it here. Calvin inherits the Datsun.
Well, but and his sister will be happy with that because she's then entitled to take a car, and she wants the Sunbeam Tiger in the garage, which is worth infinitely more. So
imagine. Oh wow. There's Lucky 13. I'm here. I was asking him how many 20s would it take to get the Datsun.
Curtis is like putting them in his suitcase. Oh, darn it, and puts it away.
You ever drive the Datsun, Calvin? I don't remember.
I've not driven the Datsun yet, but I've ridden it many a time. Literally, to get the thing going, it's like, wow, wow, with the engine. It's like you got to rev the thing up to make it. It's like the evil geniuses do. Little hover around in Despicable Me when he revs the thing up really fast and he's going like across the stage. That's what it's like driving the Datsun. Literally, he has to rev the thing up like really high, jerks it into gear, jerks it in another gear, and you're like, oh, jeez.
So Eddie comes in right about the time you're making the noise going, he's like, what's going on? What's happening here?
As you know, Calvin and his sister were homeschooled, and a lot of people don't know this, but community colleges allow you into college, I think, even if you're 6 years old. When I taught at the college, there was a kid in the acting classes that was 6 years old. His sister was 11 years old when she started to take classes, and Calvin was 13. But when the economy started to tank, I started to lose people in my class. And so I said to his mom, I said, well, remember in the days of the agrarian society when the parents put the kids to work out in the field? I said, we're putting our kids in my class so that I don't lose it, so that we have an income. So I had Calvin and his sister, and we used to actually drive out to the college at night in the 510. The car had no back seat at one point, and it had a roll bar, and I had to literally cut the diagonal brace out of the roll bar so they could fit back there. And then I just took, oddly enough, I found a back seat for a Datsun 280Z. That was the only Datsun Z car that was a four-seater. And by some method, it actually fit back there kind of nicely. And so that's what they sat on. But wow, those seats were very like sports car dish-like. And as Calvin was approaching 13, 14, he'd had his growth spurt, and his knees were pretty much in his nostrils at that point. Because of the limited leg room in the back.
I could just see him like that. Also,
for some reason, you just froze up on our end. I can still hear you, though, sort of.
What's that?
Your image is like completely frozen on our end right now.
Trying to see if there's anything going on my end here. Yeah, it looks like
I'm on good internet. Hangouts freaks out.
Here. What's funny is I got the really good internet here. It's like it's supposed to be a 200 up or 200 down, and yeah, it looks like it's backing up. Hang on.
I'm gonna try refreshing my screen really fast with Hangouts. So if anything happens, guys, I'm refreshing it. All right, here we go.
Come back.
Doing it now.
Uh-oh. I think we lost him.
Yeah, I'm joining back now.
There you are.
It's just showing the image of you and Fluffy right now.
Really?
Oh, there you are. But it's really pixelated right now.
Really?
No, it's better now.
Very much the Max Headroom look.
Okay, you're back. That was weird because you were literally just frozen and the audio was going.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird. Never happened before.
I did have Carbonite. What did start an update or an upload, so that might have been part of it.
Might have done it.
I forgot to pause it before we started the stream.
So, do you guys ever have any kind of like swap meets for 3D printers?
I have yet to hear about one. Have you?
Honestly, I still think that they're so new. The problem is the first gen machines were so clunky. Everybody probably just stripped them down for parts, keeps them for spare parts in their back room, and tossed the frame out because it was probably just all thread and cut up old cutting board. I would say give it another couple of years and we might have 3D printer swap meets. But the problem is things have progressed so quickly. It's not like the olden days of computers where it was like people were literally like practically running each other off the road to get to an auction for ancient computer crap. But, you know, because it was still usable to them because they couldn't, you know, just go to Best Buy and buy it. But I don't think we're going to see any 3D printer swap meets anytime soon. I could see electronic swap meets for components, but even then, I haven't really seen a whole lot.
Yeah, well, you got the Thing-O-Matic at a garage sale, though, right?
I got that at Tested's moving sale. So, yeah, it was technically a garage
Well, like
sale.
you said, it was old. That thing looked like IKEA made it, you know, all that wood and everything.
I still love Angus from Maker's Views when he comes on over and he's just like, this is the Thing-O-Matic? He's like treating it like
touch it?
like a religious object. I'm like, dude, you can touch the thing. Really? Yeah.
He's like, can I touch it?
I wish I had it on camera. It was the most hilarious thing in the world. I'm like, oh my god.
Maybe the only printer made with sustainable product.
Yeah, there were more.
But you got to get it fumigated every 3 years before the termites eat it.
That's the truth.
And I think the main problem is just the fact that things have progressed so fast, and also you can just buy junk so cheap off the internet anymore, just as knockoffs from AliExpress, GearBest, all that stuff. Quite honestly, I don't see the 3D printer market unless it is, say, commercial machines, a company closing, like a bankruptcy option, or just a company's holding an auction to sell off used equipment at a lower price, but they want to make some money off of it quickly. I really don't see hobby 3D printers, though, having a swap meet market just because the price of the components is so cheap. If somebody was selling a used E3D Holland even for $30, somebody would just go, oh, really? I can just buy a knockoff for $10. And then, you know, unless it's like, you know, a whole big old package or something, it's really, you're not going to get that much for it. You know, the price that you're going to want, somebody's going to want to spend is going to be so out of whack. I just don't see it being practical personally.
Mr. Carol Science says he wants that have a 3D printer swap meet at the CWRRF, Calvin Witt Rip Rap Festival.
I'm all for this. Let's make this happen, people. Give me a time, give me a space. Me and Jimmy will roll up there and we'll just start selling stuff. Maybe I'll bring the Thing-O-Matic and can spend $5 and touch it.
You know what might be a good idea? Like if there was like an all electronics kind of swap meet where everybody that was like a group or a club, which would include 3D printer people, you know, they all like rented a venue space and then everybody, you know, kind of commingles. I mean, the TRW swap meet becomes that by default, but you guys could come up with it, you know, specific. It wouldn't be a bad idea, maybe.
I just don't see Matter Hackers hosting this in their parking lot for some reason.
Probably not. What's this about an AFO Fireball included?
Eddie's saying, let's start one now. For sale, one TiVo Little Monster with upgrade to real E3D Volcano and TL Smoother. So I said, is the AFO Fireball included? Wink, wink.
And he says he put together safer than I put mine together.
Mister, I had sparks fly out of my Zone Star on stream.
Hey, it's not my fault that it had defective components on it. Did you ever show your dad that one? It's not going to focus on it. See where it burnt? The stepper driver? Right there. Thing just, he'll show you the video later on. The thing just went and just sparked.
Photo on my phone. It was hilarious. You sent me a screenshot of it. So in the meantime, Mr. Carroll Science was asking, well, doesn't that sound like Maker Faire? But I'll leave it to Jimmy to explain that no, it's not what Maker Faire is.
Well, Maker Faire, they have a section for 3D printing, but not that much. It's mainly just, it's like they say, it's the greatest show and tell on earth. So it's pretty much you take your projects, whatever you're into, and that's just there for a show and tell type thing.
And quite honestly, yes, there is stuff to buy and sell there, but literally, unless you're doing a Curtis and like showing up with a suitcase full of money or something to try and buy the Datsun, you know, I mean, the only good deal that was there was probably the Printerbot Smalls that you were just like, it was how much money? Huh? Oh, maybe I should go over there and talk to them. Love that moment for the interview. Absolutely love that moment. That was epic when you're just like, you're like seconds away from just picking up the camera, you're keeping it rolling, going, Beth, we're gonna look at a 3D printer, okay? You're not gonna say no, okay? Thank you.
How many toys did you bring?
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, it's like everything at Maker Faire is pretty expensive. And I'm not trying to knock the handmade stuff that's there. That's really cool. But it's like even the food there is like double what it would be at like a regular event. And you're just like, really?
Listen
Why?
to your father. Bring your snacks for yourself.
I plead the fifth if I've done that or not. I don't want to potentially not get my media badge. I'm still waiting to hear back on that.
I don't want to save all kinds of money and then have to blow it on food. So
yeah, I actually emailed them about the passes, and they aren't even going to start reviewing them until in April.
Okay, because I know from Twitter last year, Caleb Kraft was tweeting out, "Hey makers, if you guys want to get your media badge." It was sometime in April, but I wanted to make sure that I got the email in before then, just so that way I wasn't like last dude on the list or something. I wanted to make sure I got it in there. I had a feeling they weren't even looking at them yet. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So remember I told you I was printing a little something on the Tarantula? Your favorite.
Okay, now hit the maximum scaling button and show it off to everybody on Sunday.
How you like the little bunny ears?
They're fuzzy. What Cura setting is that? Is that called the Fuzzy Marvin setting?
No, it's called I didn't have my retraction setting right, and I had little spider webs across the ears.
It adds to the effect.
Well, man, you want to go ahead and call this?
I say we go ahead and call this. I am absolutely zonked. It has been an absolutely insane couple of days. I've not slept as much as I should since probably Thursday night.
Hubba hubba.
Oh, hater.
How was dinner?
Oh, dinner was just great.
I like the way your dad's smiling. You're going to have so much to talk about tonight.
That's the part when the lady comes out with the root beer float and goes, "Oh, you guys going to have an old lady in the tramp style?" I'm just sitting there like, oh, gosh, not another person.
Curtis was like, "Are you guys going to be streaming tonight?" "Yeah." "Are you sure?"
Well, Calvin told me that if he didn't get home on time, that I was supposed to open for him.
Literally, I had the laptop sitting ready to go with my email open. So if for whatever reason we were stuck out there way later than we thought in LA, I could email him the link with simple directions on how to do it, race home and jump on the show. And then I got home at 9 o'clock and I'm like, Easy.
And I was going to take my spare sunglasses and put T-dub on them.
T-dub. We gotta get you one of those maker coins that hang around your neck like Calvin does.
Actually, I was going to take his Make It With Calvin shirt that he just gave me and like put tape across it and say, "Spend it with Dad."
I swear, if we go to another swap meet together, I'm seriously gonna make him a big old coin that says "Spend it with Dad" and label the whole show title "Spend it with Dad" just as a complete joke.
we have the Dianza swap meet video.
Yeah, that's way back there. That's like a year or two ago.
We go to the swap meet and I didn't have my glasses, so like I'm walking around blind. You know, Calvin was my seeing eye son, and it was like, what does that say? How much do they want for that? Where was that made?
Eddie wants to know, how can he tip Calvin's dad? Put in your link for your PayPal.
On this week's episode, you cannot tip me. You can just like tip my dad.
Calvin will make sure it gets to him.
I got to fly under the radar because I don't want the government seeing on my tax.
That's all right. This goes on to Calvin's taxes.
No, I don't have Patreon yet. Don't worry, guys. We're just joking. No big deal. Nobody ever dumps money in it. PayPal donate like.
Yeah, I got to start doing my taxes tomorrow, in fact.
Oh, you're a late bloomer like us. Every
Yeah.
year I say, oh, we're going to get it done as soon as everything comes in at the end of January. And every year it's like, it's April already.
I know. And like in this case, this is the first time I ever got an envelope from Google.
Oh,
The envelope comes, I'm like, wow, Google sent me something. Open up, $10.99 miscellaneous. No, I earned that much.
yeah.
The real question is, was it more or less than you thought it was going to be?
It was more than I thought because I don't remember getting that much.
Must have been all those late night live streams where you're just like so focused on the prairie, you didn't notice all those giant donations going in.
I think it actually was. I think it's that very first stream I did when everybody's all trying to give me money so I could go ahead and buy the cable to run out here. Oh my goodness, Eddie, thank you very much.
Jimmy really wants another $10.99 next year.
Spending on fire suppressant.
Who's that directed towards, Eddie? Hint, hint. It reminds me at some point we do need to film the C-Dub Fire Killer 10,000 propane tank video thing if we ever get around to it.
I almost took the tank with me today to sandblast it. I thought, well, it's probably going to be a while before we get around to it. So I just went ahead and left it. Next time I go to the yard, I'll take it with me, sandblast it, and paint it red. And I got to find some stencils so I can put down C-Dub's Fire Killer on it.
Hey, Curtis, Jimmy needs some stencils. Hint, 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 hint. No, Eddie, I need some donations in my PayPal so I can buy that fire suit that I've always wanted. It's like $300 on AliExpress. It probably doesn't do anything. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, guys, I guess we better wrap it up.
We better wrap it up. I'm zonked.
I can tell everybody's getting a little bit pooped here.
Thanks for letting me sit in, gentlemen. Always a good time.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I sure appreciate it. And thank you, Calvin, for joining me while you're down there on vacation.
No problem. It was
In case it wasn't explained, Calvin's down in LA right now. He's not up in San Francisco.
Actually, I'm outside of LA right now. I ran to LA for dinner.
Oh, okay.
Close
You're
enough,
Palmdale?
No. No, I'm not.
Go say hi to Afro Man for me.
I'm not watering your brother's trees for you.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you guys for joining. Sure appreciate you joining us in the chat. Join us next week over on Calvin's channel. or we're going to talk about other stuff and things. Datsuns.
Hater.
Marvin's with bunny rabbit ears.
Wait,
Tascam holders.
Before you guys go, did you notice anything about Calvin?
Yeah, they did.
They did?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you think that's short enough? Because I think it go a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I did too. But his argument was he was paying for it. So,
okay, if that's the condition from now on, I'm going to take it for a haircut. I'll pay for it.
hey, we'll chip in.
Everybody in chat is all of a sudden going to start throwing all kinds of money, and I'm just going to be like, I'm out of here.
I'm going to walk in there. I'm going to say, take a size 10 comb and just do it.
Next Vegas trip, I'm making sure I'm getting my own room.
You know, and the thing is, he can 3D print himself a wig if he doesn't like it.
Ouch. Oh, so you're telling TK he now doesn't have to work on that Harry Calvin drinks holder? The thing Mr. Carroll Science keeps asking for every week, he wants a Harry Calvin drinks holder, and I'm like, yes.
Harry Calvin.
To style your own Calvin 3D printable head. That would just
put it on Etsy.
Yes. Where you cut the disc out yourself for, you know, your own enjoyment.
You can trim the hair to whatever length you want before you like take the heat gun to it.
We just got to get Joel to G-Max it.
Oh God. Hey, did you see the car that he printed and took to Murph?
I saw photos of it, and I guess the Alaskan Airlines people were just like drooling over it at check-in.
I'll bet they were. I bet they were drooling, especially over how much money they could charge them to fly it.
Ouch.
How long was that? That thing had to be what, about 5 feet long?
I'm guessing at least 4 to 5 feet long. I would have loved to have personally seen the thing run, and it's completely doable to make it run. It's not that hard. It's just, I'm not going to name the name of the person, but the person said, and I totally agree, that if the thing probably ran, it would probably self-destruct very quickly just because of its 3D printed fasteners being a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it could be done.
It could be done. I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just you'd have to drive it pretty gingerly.
But the main thing is he wanted to put it together for that venue. And then I imagine if he actually does turn it into an RC car, I'm sure he'll probably go with the metal fasteners and stuff like that.
Or what he could always do would be really cool is if he actually collabed with Gordon and Anna over at G-Create, who have that ridiculously big G-Max, to print it in much larger assemblies. That would actually be a much more viable option, at least in my opinion. And I think it would be really cool as a collab between them to do that. Just a thought, you know.
I'd like to see him take it over to the Part Daddy. Print everything on the Part Daddy. Just
detail resolution on the Part Daddy is pretty bad because it has a nozzle like about that big.
Yeah, it still look cool though.
I do hope that at Maker Faire this year, Part Daddy is there, because if it's not, that's going to be really sad.
I know. I was really hoping to see it last year, but I guess they just didn't have the right size area to do it this time.
No, after hearing what the guys at Protoposter were saying, how much a booth costs, it's just like, oh, now I understand for Maker Faire. So, who knows?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Okay, well, you have fun down there. Have a fun rest of the time. Enjoy yourself.
Tune in next week when Calvin's mother tells you everything he doesn't want you to hear.
No.
Yes, yes. We need Mrs. Witt on this show. We need her on next week.
It will seriously turn into a long distance edition of like the Jerry Springer show. Only nice thing is I have control of everything, so I can just press the mute button.
Well, special thanks to your dad, Tom. Please tell him to thank you very much for joining. Thank you. And like I said, have fun down there. We'll see you guys next week.
Later.